Hi. In today's lesson, we're going to learn about relative frequency tables and how to create them when you have information from a two-way table. So this first part is really important information. So a relative frequency table shows you the percentages so that data can be compared. Relative frequency tables are useful when there's a lot of data. Relative frequency can be calculated for the whole table, the row categories, or the column categories. So there's three different types. The question you're trying to answer will determine the type of relative frequency you should calculate. And so here's the formula for that. So relative frequency is going to be the number of the item divided by the total number of items, whether you're talking about the whole table, row, or column. Might sound a little bit confusing. Let's do some examples and hopefully that'll clear up any of the confusion we may have. So let's look at this first example. It says that 80 students were asked, what is your favorite color? The frequency table shows the results of the survey. Complete the relative frequency table to show the distribution of the data with respect to all 80 students. Well, first things first, we've got to come over here and finish filling out our two-way table. Now, our total should add up to 80 because it said that 80 students were surveyed. So you can just type it in a calculator, but I'm going to find the total number of boys. So I'm going to do 18 plus 10 plus 10, and I get 38. Then I'm going to find the total number of girls. So 22 plus 14 plus 6, and I get 42. Then I'm going to double check. 38 plus 42 is 80. So that works. Now I'm going to find the total number of students that preferred red. So I'm going to do 18 plus 22, and I get 40. Then I'm going to do 10 plus 14 and get 24. Then 10 plus 6 and get 16. Then I'm going to double check that total, the total for each color. So I'm going to add up the 40 plus 24 plus 16 and double check that it's 80, and it is. All right, so I've got that squared away. Now we're going to do our cell relative frequency based on the total number surveyed. So the total number of students surveyed was 80. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to look here. First I'm going to look at boys that said they liked red. And so that's 18. So in this spot, I'm going to write figure 18 out of 80. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to write 18. I'm just going to write it small right now. That's not the final answer, okay? But I'm just going to fill that part in. For boys that liked blue, that was 10. So I'm going to do 10 out of 80 here. For boys that liked green was also 10. So that's another 10 out of 80. My total number of boys surveyed were 38. So I'm going to do 38 out of 80. For my girls, 22 liked red. So that's going to be 22 out of 80. 14 girls liked blue. So 14 out of 80. And 6 girls liked green. So that's 6 out of 80. There were 42 girls surveyed. So I'm going to write 42 out of 80. The total number of students that preferred red was 40 students, so that's 40 out of 80. The total number that liked blue was 24, so I'm going to write 24 out of 80. And the total that liked green was 16, so 16 out of 80. And then for my total of the totals, that would be 80 out of 80. All right, so now I've got a calculator, and I'm just going to type in 18 divided by 80, and I get a decimal number. So 0.225, and that's all. So the relative frequency is 0.225. For blue, I'm going to do 10 out of 80, and I get 0.125. So that's 0.125. Then I'm going to do 38 out of 80, or divided by 80, and I get 0.475. And I'm just going to continue doing this. So 22 out of 80, is 0.275. 14 divided by 80 is 0.175. 6 divided by 80, 0.075. 42 divided by 80, 0.525. 40 divided by 80 is 0.5. I'll add a couple zeros there. 24 divided by 80 is 0.3. Add a couple zeros. And 16 divided by 80 is 0.2. And 80 divided by 80 is 1, or 1.00. So this is my, relative frequency table based on the total number surveyed, or the total number surveyed. So all of these are decimals, but we could easily look at any of these and convert them to percents. For example, that percent that I've got circled would be 22.5%. So 22.5% of the people that were surveyed were boys who said red was their favorite color. Or of the people that were surveyed, 7.5% were girls, and they said they liked green the best. Okay, so that's how that works. All right, that's one way to do a relative frequency table. Let's look at a different way. So look at example 2. 40 people were asked, do you like thunderstorms? The frequency table shows the results of the survey. Complete the relative frequency table to show the distribution of the data with respect to gender. Round to the nearest tenth where needed. Okay, so when I round to the nearest tenth, that means one number behind my decimal. Well, first I've got to fill in my frequency table, right? So the total that said yes would be 22. The total that said no would be 18. Total number of men would be 22. Total number of women would be 18. And then I'm going to add the 22 and the 18 together and get 40. And they did say 40 people were surveyed, so that's great. Now we're going to do a row relative frequency table. Rows go left to right. So the rows here, the heading are men and women, and that's a type of gender. So row relative frequency table of gender. Okay, so here we go. When I do the men that said yes, I have 12 men that said yes, and I'm going to do that based on the total number of men. So that's going to be 12 out of 22 is what I'm going to put here. Okay, when I do men that said no, I'm looking here. That would be 10 out of 22. And so this would be 22 out of 22. Now when I do women, it's going to be out of 18 because there were a total of 18 women surveyed. So I'm going to do 10 out of 18 that said yes, and 8 out of 18 that said no, and then this will be 18 out of 18. When I look at my totals column right here, I'm going to do 22 that said yes out of the total number surveyed is 40. So it's going to be 22. This will be out of 40. 22 out of 40, 18 out of 40, and 40 out of 40. Let me erase that. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Okay. So I'm going to do 12 out of 22, and it said to round to the nearest tenth where necessary. So 12 divided by 22. When I round that to the nearest tenth, that would be 0.5. Then I'm going to do 10 out of 22 to the nearest tenth would be 0.5. And 22 out of 22 would be 1.0. Now I'm going to do 10 out of 18. Which would be 0.6 to the nearest tenth. 8 divided by 18 would be 0.4 to the nearest tenth. And then 18 divided by 18 is 1.0. Now I'm going to do 22 divided by 40, which would be 0.6, went around to the nearest tenth. And then 18 divided by 40 would be 0. Well, actually round to 0.5. And then 40 out of 40 is going to be 1.0. Then it says to write a conclusion you can draw from the relative frequency table. So this is based on gender. So let's talk about what this means. Now, all of these are written as decimals, but you could change them to percents. For example, that'd be 50% and that'd be 50%. So of the men that were surveyed, 50% said yes, they like thunderstorms, and 50% said no. So it's about split pretty evenly. Of the women who were surveyed, 60% said they like thunderstorms, whereas 40% said they do not. Of the total number of people surveyed, we have about 60% saying they like it and about 50% saying they do not like it. So it's split pretty evenly. So there are several conclusions we could draw from this table. We could say men like thunderstorms equally well as they don't. About half like and about half don't. More women like thunderstorms than don't like thunderstorms. We could say people generally are split down the middle on whether or not they like thunderstorms. So those are some of the conclusions that you could draw from this table. So I'm just going to say more women are like thunderstorms more than they don't. Women are more likely to like thunderstorms than not, is what I'm going to write. Women are more likely to like thunderstorms than not like them. We can't make any conclusions about more men than women like them or less men than women like them or any of that. We can't compare that. We can just compare whether a man is more likely to enjoy or not enjoy a thunderstorm, whether a woman is more likely to enjoy or not enjoy a thunderstorm, and whether or not the whole population is more likely to enjoy or not enjoy a thunderstorm. That's all we can discuss here. All right, let's do one more together. Let's look at example 3. 50 people were asked, do you primarily use your left or right hand to write, or can you use either? The frequency table shows the results of the survey. Complete the relative frequency table to show the relationship of the hand people use to their gender. Round to the nearest tenth as needed. So again, one number behind the decimal. So the frequency table here is already completed. But now we have to do a column relative frequency table. So columns go up and down. So notice the columns here say left, right, or either, referring to what hand you use. So it's the column relative frequency table of, we'll call that handedness. Meaning, are you left or right-handed? So for men, we're basing this on the column. So this right here, left hand and men, that's a 9 out of what though? That's out of the total lefties in the bunch. So we're going to do 9 out of the total lefties of 21. So I'm going to write 9 out of 21. I'm going to go straight down. For women, I'm going to do 12 out of 21. And for my total will be 21 out of 21. Now I'm going to do my right-handed people. Okay, so that's 9 men out of 22 total people that are right-handed. So I'm going to do 9 out of 22. For women, I'm going to do 13 out of 22. And my total will be 22 out of 22. And then either, meaning they're ambidextrous, I'm going to look here. I'm going to do 3 for men. There are 3 men out of a total of 7 people. So 3 out of 7. So that's going to be 3 out of 7, 4 out of 7, and then 7 out of 7. And then my total column, so that's 21 men out of 50 people, 29 women out of 50 people, and then that would be 50 out of 50. And remember, it said to round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to do 9 divided by 21. And to the nearest tenth, that's going to be 0.4. Then 12 divided by 21. To the nearest tenth would be 0.6. 21 divided by 21 would be 1.0. Now I'm going to do 9 divided by 22. So that's going to be 0.4. 13 divided by 22. And I get 0.6. And then 22 divided by 22 is 1.0. Then I'm going to do 3 divided by 7. And that's 0.4. 4 divided by 7 is 0.6. 7 divided by 7 is 1.0. Okay, we're going to do 21 divided by 50. And that's 0.4 when we round to the nearest tenth. 29 divided by 50 is 0.6. And 50 divided by 50 would be 1.0. Okay? And then it says to write a conclusion you can draw from the relative frequency table here. So again, there's more than one conclusion here, but we only need to look this way, right? So we can say we have 40% of men, 40 of the lefties, 40% were men and 60% were women. So lefties are more likely to be women. Right-handed, well, 40% are men and 60% are women. So we could say of the right-handed people surveyed, they were more likely to be women. And again, same thing with the either hand, right? Okay, and then of our total, there were more women surveyed than men. Okay, so I actually am going to say that last one. So I'm going to say more women than men were surveyed. More women than men were surveyed. Okay, and so that's just one conclusion. Like I said, there are a few others. All right, let's go to the next page. This time I want you to try this example completely on your own. So pause the video and do example 4 on your own. Okay, welcome back. So hopefully you did okay with this example. You're going to want to pause the video to make sure that you make the necessary corrections. But this was a column relative frequency table, and remember that columns go up and down. And so that was, the title there was Dinner Choices. So go ahead and pause the video and you can get the totals. And then here are the rest of the table, the relative frequency table. So remember, this was out of dinner choices. So for example, for the fish and fruit salad, there were 15 people that said fish and fruit salad out of a total of 35 people that selected the fish. And I rounded each of these to the nearest hundredth. All right, so pause the video and get that table filled in. Okay, great. Hopefully you didn't have any mistakes, and if so, you've made the necessary corrections. As far as the conclusion that you chose, there's obviously more than one conclusion. So mine, I just decided to look at the beef column, and for the beef column, I see that most people also who picked beef also picked the ice cream. You could have said something like, of the people that chose eggplant, most of them picked pudding. Or of the people that chose chicken, most picked fruit salad. Of the people that chose fish, it looks like most also chose fruit salad there as well. So you could have written, there are a variety of conclusions you could have drawn from this particular frequency table. The one that I have written is just an example, okay? So If you have questions about this or questions about anything that you've learned in this lesson, make sure you bring it to my attention so that I'm happy to help you. Go ahead and turn this in, and then you can work on your independent practice. Good luck!